Welcome to Business Leaders Coach, where we educate, equip, enable, and empower you to become the best leader that you can be. My name is Toyo Shimbi, founder of Business Leaders Coach, and I want to wish you a happy new year. You're either listening or watching this bang on last day of the year, or you're listening to this in the new year. Either way, I want to really wish you a happy new year 2022. Today, I want to talk about the importance of having a new leadership perspective for 2022 and beyond. As some of you would know, I've gone a bit quiet over the last number of weeks, and I've spent a lot of time reflecting on 2021. And I hope that you've done the same thing and that you've made plans to see 2022, take things to that next level, set goals for 2022. And so this episode, I want to share with you some of my own insights, observations, and something that I'm going to be developing over the year and explaining in more detail. And the reason is because as I've been coaching, speaking, observing, just listening to a lot of what is going on, I've noticed that something is not working. There's so much information out there on leadership. There's so much training. Leaders are being trained. Employees are still complaining. Employees are being trained and leaders are still complaining. And so my conclusion is that we need a new perspective on leadership. So what's the big idea? My big idea is that your team, your organization will be truly successful if everyone sees themselves as a leader. So the big idea is everyone a leader. Now, why is this shift essential? What I believe is because leadership is now an essential skill for everyone and not just a selected few. And I've been listening, and one of the things that I've heard, even in books and as we write, and even in some of the things that I've done and shared, is I've spoken to leaders. And just in the context of that, it's separated people in organizations, in teams, that there's a class of people that fall into a leadership category, and there's a class of people that are the others. And so this is essential because leadership is no longer a skill for just a few. So the perspective is everyone a leader. Now, I'm not saying that everyone will have the same position and say when it comes to making decisions. But what I am saying is that because we do what is expected of us, many are not seeing that they have the need to demonstrate leadership attributes as part of being in a team or an organization. And because that is not being expected of them, they are not seeing the need to take on that responsibility. And so leaders are complaining about employees because they're not seeing that kind of initiative. And employees are not seeing the need to show up that way because it's not being required of them. The organization isn't actually conducive in some places for people to show up as a leader. And so this is a piece for all categories, no matter who you are. So now this means that leaders have to shift their perspective around how they lead these people, how they encourage them, how they help them draw out this leadership potential. This is something that this new leadership perspective has to take on board. It has to allow the individual, the employee, to disagree with you. Where there's that enough of a psychological safety for them to share their real, honest thoughts in the moment. And in some cases, you might find that uncomfortable. But that's the kind of world we are now in. So if you are a member of a team, you need to see yourself as a leader. And I know that some people just don't even like the word being a leader. Maybe I'll put a post out and just test. Do you see yourself as a leader? I'm sure I read in one book where this question was asked, and a high percentage of people said they did not see themselves as a leader. And so you might want to change the term influencer or whatever, but the characteristics of a leader are essential in the world that we are in. And this is now being demanded from every member of every kind of organization, every kind of community, every kind of team. Each person must see themselves as a leader. And so if you are the leader of that team, then you need to start seeing yourself as a coach. And how do we do this? What's the way of doing this? Let me leave you with some practical tips for this podcast, final podcast, end of 2021. More on this later on, but let me leave you with some practical tips of how we can do this. The key thing, how do you do this? By asking more questions than giving more answers. So, where can you start? As we're ending out 2021 and as we go into 2022, I want to give you some practical things that you can do with yourself and also with your team members. Start by asking your team members, but more important, make sure that you've answered these questions yourself. What do you love doing in your job? You can ask your team members this as well. What do they love doing in their job? What are your strengths? It's really important that if we are going to turn every employee, every citizen, every member of a team into a leader, these are the first questions we need to find out from them. What are your strengths? And the third question is, what are your long-term ambitions? What's driving them? Where do they see themselves in the next year, 2 years, 3 years? What are the things that they're ambitious about? Finding out these things, listen to what they say, because this is important for you shifting into that position as coach. Now, if your team members have a clear answer to these questions, then you can also ask these questions around your team. Now, if your team has a clear purpose, or if your organization has a clear purpose, which you should, then ask your co-team members these two questions. In what ways do you identify with the purpose of the team or organization? In what ways do you identify with it? And the second question is, in what ways does your daily activity contribute to this overall purpose? In what ways does your daily activity contribute to this overall purpose? That's the purpose of the team or the purpose of the organization. And the reason for this question is because you want your team members to connect their day-to-day activities with the overall purpose of the team or the organization. This is essential because this drives what's called intrinsic motivation. Then to finish off, you can ask, what are you willing to do daily that will move you closer to your desired end goal? What are you willing to do daily that will move you closer to your desired end goal? This is the beginning of helping you become a leader that is shifting into coaching, helping your people become leaders in the teams. And this really engages and empowers your team members. And this will help you become this leader with this new perspective, because you'll be demonstrating the mindset and the skill set of this new leadership perspective. So this is something that I want to share with you as we end 2021. And I'll be talking a lot more about this new perspective, because I think it is something that many of us are just not equipped on with the skills and the mindset. Especially, the world has changed rapidly. As you can see, in many places, there's perhaps might be another lockdown. People might end up still working from home. This has not ended yet with this COVID that we have, COVID-19. So first of all, what are your thoughts on this new perspective? Is this something that you need to really start to take on board? Well, you can go to Business Leaders Coach, www.businessleaderscoach.com, schedule a call to have a chat, and let's see what we can do to support you on this transition that you have to make if you're going to be a leader in this 21st century. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Please also comment. If you're listening to this on any of your other podcast platforms, also please like and share. And obviously, you can go to Business Leaders Coach to get more information on this. For now, again, I want to wish you a happy new year as we wrap up 2021, going into 2022 to support you to continue this journey as we educate, equip, enable, and empower you to become the best leader that you can be. This is Toyo Shimbi for Business Leaders Coach, signing off. Happy New Year.